Hey there. In the next few minutes, I want to show you how to fill out an IRS form called the W-9. Kind of a strange sounding form, but really this is a form that gets used for all kinds of different purposes, and it's probably going to come up at some point in the life of your real estate investing business. Sometimes you're going to have to fill this out on behalf of yourself, and sometimes you're going to have to request that somebody else fill out this form for you. And really the whole purpose of this form is pretty simple. Is just so that one party can get the information they need from the other party in order to file a specific form with IRS. So for example, whenever a property is being bought or sold and the closer needs to file a form called the 1099-S, in order to get that information, they could get it from this form if it's filled out and signed and dated by the appropriate party. Or for example, if you as the seller on a seller finance deal need to send out what's called a 1098 form to the borrower, you could also get that information from this as well. And those are just two examples. There's a slew of other reasons why this form could be helpful, but really I just want to show you how to fill this form out, whether you're filling it out on behalf of yourself or whether you're filling it out on behalf of somebody else and you're trying to get their signature. You would really just have to put all the information that you know right here in this form. And right now I'm showing you the online version from the IRS website. And keep in mind, this form actually changes and gets updated every so often. You'll see right here at the top where it says revised December 2014. At some point in the future, I guarantee this is going to be revised again. So whenever you're filling this out, just make sure you're working with the current copy because there are these little minor changes that happen every so often. And really all you have to do is just enter in all the information you have about the person from whom this form is being requested. So for example, if this form was being requested from me, I would just go ahead and put my information in here like this. And depending on whether you're filling this out on behalf of yourself or on behalf of a business entity, that's when you would fill in this second line here. So for example, if I was filling this out on behalf of my business entity, I would just put my company name in here. And then when you look at this second line right here, in my case, I have what's called a single member LLC, which in this form, the IRS essentially treats the same as like a sole proprietorship if you're just operating on behalf of yourself. So I would check this box right here. And then once that's done, I would go over here. None of this stuff applies to me, so I'm going to just leave that blank. Then I would put in my business address here. And if I'm filling this out on behalf of somebody else, then I would either leave this part blank or this section would already be filled out. And then down here you have to enter in your tax ID number or your social security number. In my case, I was actually a little confused by this at first. I am filling this out on behalf of my single member LLC. However, according to the instructions on page 3 of this form, which is right down here, because I'm a single member LLC and it's considered a disregarded entity, I'm technically supposed to fill in my social security number, not my employer identification number, even if I have one. And again, that's according to what it says right down here, where it says, do not enter the disregarded entity's EIN. So just keep that in mind. If you are doing this on behalf of your company, but that company is a single member LLC acting as a disregarded entity, in that case, you're not going to fill out this, you're going to fill out this. And keep in mind, I'm not a CPA. I'm not really an expert in this stuff. I'm just kind of going by what the instructions say. So if you have any questions about this, be sure to run it by your CPA and or just verify that your information is put in there correctly. Don't take this as financial tax advice or anything like that. I'm just telling you how I fill out my forms. And then once that's complete, I would just print it out and go down here and I would sign it and date it and then send it back to the person who was requesting it from me. Now, alternatively, if I was trying to get this form completed by somebody else because I needed their information in order to complete some forms on my end, then I could either send them just a blank copy of this and say good luck and have them figure it out. And some people will be able to do that. Some people won't, just because it's an IRS form and it's confusing by its very nature. So if you wanted to be nice and if you had some of their information already, you could go ahead and fill out some of that for them. And for example, you could just go like this. If I was trying to get it from a guy named John Smith, I would put his name in here and I'm just getting this on behalf of himself personally. So I'd leave this section blank. Then I would check that box. And then down here, I would just put his address. And then I would just kind of leave this blank, or I would fill it in later. And then at this point, if I had his social security number for some reason, I would fill it in. But usually the whole reason I'm even asking for this form to get filled out is because I don't have their social security number. So when it comes to this section, I would basically just leave it blank. But when I print it out and scan it and send it to them, I'm going to want to indicate really clearly on here that they need to fill this out before they sign it, date it, and send it back to me. So usually what I would do is I would print it out and like highlight it or draw a big circle on it or put an arrow on it with some kind of a sticky note if I was sending them a hard copy. Just make it very clear and obvious that, hey, fill this out before you send it back to me. And then I would just send it to them, and I'd probably indicate as well here just to make it obvious, hey, sign this section and date this section. And that's really all you have to do. And then once you have this completed form with all the numbers and information and signatures and dates, then at that point you will have what you need in order to complete your 1099 or 1098 or any other document that you may need in the course of your business. So that's really all there is to it. That's what a W-9 is, and that's how you get it filled out. It's a pretty straightforward document, but if you're not accustomed to working with this, it can obviously be confusing. You can always feel free to read the rest of the directions here. It's very interesting reading, as you can tell. But I'll just sort of leave that up to you. And I'm going to have a link to this form right beneath this video. So if you need to get to that, you should be able to access that online. And keep in mind, if you don't have this information, that's okay too. You can just as well leave all this stuff blank. But if you're going to do that, just make it very clear to them what they need to fill out. Like you could highlight the empty fields or put arrows next to them just so they understand what they're supposed to do. Because the average person probably is not going to understand it. So that's all there is to it. And that's all you got to do.